Top 5 NFL free agency moves of hour one, day one. These are just the ones that happen in the first hour of free agency when legal tampering began. If it's legal, it's not tampering. Just going to throw that out there. So, number 5, Bryce Huff to the Eagles. This one's going to fly under the radar of a lot of people because he's not a household name, especially when it comes to defensive ends. But he had the best pass rush success rate in the league last year for the Jets and Robert Saleh, and he's joining a defensive line that has studs all over it. Now, no determination has been made by the Eagles on what they're going to do with Hassan Reddick. I tend to think they'll figure out, who will be they'll figure all that out because that's just how it is. So if they have Hassan Reddick and Bryce Huff and Josh Sweat, along with the 2 defensive tackles from Georgia that they've gotten the last couple of years, that's going to be a formidable defensive line. I think they brought back Brandon Graham, the old Wiley vet as well. They need to do some work on the back end of that defense, but they already started to do that. And of course, adding Saquon Barkley today, which we'll talk about in a second. But the Eagles made 2 of the best 5 moves so far today, at least in the hour. Brian Burns just got traded to the Giants, so that's a huge one. But Bryce Huff to the Eagles is big, even though he may fly under the radar a little bit. This is a guy who can get to the quarterback. Yeah,
building a ferocious attack defensively as far as getting to the quarterback goes, adding him to the mix that they already have. That's crazy. They're going to be hell on wheels when it comes to putting pressure on the QB more so than they already were with a pickup like this. So, yeah, they seem like they're having a banner day up there in Philadelphia, much the opposite of how you're feeling and a lot of other Cowboys fans today.
Yeah, and in the Seahawks, too. See, we're in solidarity of what's going on. Number 4, Josh Jacobs to the Packers. This means Aaron Jones, now a free agent, as they released him today. A younger guy, really just a 1-year deal with 3 Packer option years on the back end of it. I would think if he's any good at all, they're going to exercise at least 1 or 2 of those options for them. But this is a guy who's younger, who's been a little bit healthier than Aaron Jones, although Aaron Jones has been a huge part of the Packers offense. Jordan Love has to be bummed that Aaron Jones is leaving, but this is a good replacement and a big one, and the Raiders fought until the 11th hour to get him, and they just couldn't do it.
I'm more interested about the Aaron Jones aspect of this because, man, what a career he carved out for himself coming out of UTEP, and knew him because he's a Texas guy, but, man, what a great career he had in Green Bay.
Yep.
Like, geez Louise. And they're a long time, super productive, but you are a running back, and that in this day and age doesn't last forever, obviously. So, yeah, that's interesting to see Josh Jacobs move on from the Raiders. I remember not that long ago when he was like their, a prize piece in the buildup of the Raiders on their way to a Super Bowl, and now he's gone and not the blink of an eye, but it kind of feels that way in some ways. So, yeah, I guess it's a solid younger addition for Green Bay, but Aaron Jones had a hell of a career up there at Lambeau.
The Cowboys should sign him just to not play him.
Yes. Yeah. No, look, he'll
in that playoff game, he just seems like there's a little extra.
I feel like he's going to be a giant tomorrow, and then I'm going to be like, great, there's going to be 2 games. Granted, I don't think he's going to – I think he's probably going to go chase rings. But that's what I would do if I were Aaron Jones.
No, he's definitely going to get picked up. I mean, for the running back spot not being like the greatest position in the world any longer and having not been for quite some time, like he's had a long career and he's definitely got some more tread left on the tires. But I get Green Bay's perspective here of just getting younger and I know Josh Jacobs is a super talented, back. But, I think more about Aaron Jones with this move.
Number 3. Christian Wilkins to the Raiders. This one was huge. This is a huge loss for the Dolphins, who are going to have to really work on their defensive line, who has both defensive ends coming off of injury and both of them late as well, so may not have them for the start of the year, and now have lost their best defensive tackle to the Raiders. You put him next to Max Crosby, lethal pass rush there and run stuffing for the Raiders. And I'm very curious to see what the Raiders do. They also signed Gardner Minshew today, so that guy's circus comes to Las Vegas, which I love Gardner Minshew unconditionally. So that should be fun to see if he winds up being the starter there, depending on what they do in the draft or trades. Maybe they get Justin Fields or something as well. I don't know. We'll see what happens with the Raiders and their quarterback. But Christian Wilkins on that defense is going to be really good, especially since they've got to deal with the Kansas City Chiefs twice a year, and having more pressure up front is only a good thing for them.
Yeah, I mean, he and Crosby ought to be a hellacious tandem up front, and massive deal, 4 years, $110 million. I know there's details to these types of deals, guaranteed money, all that kind of stuff, but it's a giant deal for him. So yeah, it's a really good pickup for Las Vegas, who I guess is just hoping and praying that Antonio Pierce is really the guy to lead them to the promised land. But yeah, they're getting active early on, so that's a team that's got a little bit of momentum just because of the location. Like, does he sign with them if they're still the Oakland Raiders for 4 years, $110 million? Probably, yeah. But I do wonder in free agency how much that's going to come into play. Of, hey, you also get to come play in Las Vegas.
I think that Mark Davis has more money. Like, he's making more money with them being in Vegas than he was in Oakland personally. So I do think that they're more apt to open the purse strings a little, loosen the purse strings a little bit, just because, he's got this big new stadium and there's all these other things he can do. And, even though he's still one of the cheaper dudes when it comes to free agency, they're swinging big here. This was an effect of me getting a guy like this when you haven't had one like this for a while is pretty big. Mm-hmm. Number 2. Saquon Barkley to the Eagles, and Apple will not let me type the word Saquon into an email or a text. It always comes out Sequin. They need to learn it. Apple needs to learn Saquon, and maybe they will now that he's in Philly, in the land of cheesesteaks, and going to be playing for a very good offense with a very good offensive line, something in his 4 or 5 year NFL career he has never done. He has never been behind a good offensive line. The Giants have not been able to build that up for him. He's still been a very effective and talented player when he's been healthy. And part of the reason maybe he wasn't healthy those couple of years is because he was getting hit a lot when he wouldn't have normally. The Eagles, even though they lost Jason Kelce, you're still going to have a really good offensive line. Signed Landon Dickerson to a 4-year extension. He's one of the better guards in the league, if not one of the best guards in the league. I should have just said it at that. Howie Roseman pulling all the strings today and showing why he's the most aggressive and interesting GM in the league. And, the Cowboys just being like, listen, it's going to work eventually in these 25 years. It's going to work,
Yeah, I mean, Saquon's a really solid player. He's been around the NFL a lot longer, man. It feels like just yesterday he was the next big thing prospect-wise, and now he's heading to like year 7 or something at this point.
This is year 7 coming up, yeah.
So, yeah, not the most memorable tenure in New York, just because they were never very good while he was there, and he didn't have the best blocking, as you pointed out. But I'm excited to see what he can do, rivalries aside, as a member of the Eagles with a lot better talent around him. And I know the Eagles will have questions to answer, like replacing Jason Kelce, for example. But, that kind of spices up the Saquon profile and makes him a little bit more interesting rather than looking back at another year in New York and, going back to the drawing board with the Giants. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what this looks like.
He can catch it, too, out of the backfield. He really is a threat out of the backfield.
Their center was not from UCLA. It's Cam Jurgens from Nebraska. So he is.
Saquon Barkley, other than the year he hurt himself badly early in the season, 2 games in, he's had no less than 41 catches in a game, twice above 50, and had 91 his rookie year.
Yeah, because he's very much a modern running back who can do. He's modern, old school. He can do a lot. He can do a ton. And the Giants just never gave it around him. At number 1. Kirk Cousins to the Falcons. The funniest tweet I saw about this, Kirk Cousins has been very vocal about how he shops at Kohl's. He loves Kohl's. And the Falcons put out a tweet with the Google Maps of all the Kohl's in the Atlanta area, of which there are a ton in the greater Atlanta area. But Kirk Cousins signs to the Falcons. I'm going to give you guys a stat here. This is from Sharp Football, Warren Sharp. In 2012, he signed a standard rookie deal. 2016, $19.9 million fully guaranteed. 2017, $23.9 fully guaranteed. 2018, $84 million fully guaranteed. In 2020, $66 million fully guaranteed. In 2022, $35 million fully guaranteed. In 2024, $100 million fully guaranteed. In his career through 2027, he will have made $411 million, of which $329 million was fully guaranteed. He has one playoff win in 12 years in the league.
He's a stats compiler. Mm-hmm. He can at times put up huge numbers, but there's something about him that to me always seems like he's worried about getting hit, that a little bit skittish, and probably because of the teams he's played for. But he has put up a bunch of stats, but you don't see him win too many really big games.
No, you don't. So if you're Atlanta, you're maybe you're resigning yourself to that for a little bit, at least early on here. But he's a major upgrade over what they've had.
Yeah. So
that's the biggest thing for Atlanta is, it cost a pretty penny, but your options, especially after this past season, I mean, you had to go out and spend money to go get a legit quarterback. Either that or you're going to do it through the draft, right? And that's a bit more of a risky proposition than go ahead and just guaranteeing a bunch of money to a guy who you've got plenty of real-time stats and things that he's accumulated over the years. So, yeah, he's a proven guy, proven that he can put up big numbers and win some games. Hasn't proven that he can win the biggest of games, but he's definitely better than what they've had there for a while. So, yeah, that ought to be welcome news for Bijan Robinson and all the rest of the offensive weapons who have been kind of toiling away there in Atlanta here recently.
Absolutely. So there you go. There's the top 5. The biggest move of the day, though, might have superseded